Han.
But yeah, I'm getting to it.
Oh.
Watch it!
Another one.
Another one. What episode is this, Nathan? Where are we at with Hyperspace Hype?
This is episode number 115.
15. Wow.
15 of the new era.
Yeah, I know, right? 115, the start of a new era. 15 episodes after the previous start of a new era. Holy shit, Nathan. We're finally talking about Acolyte. Comes out. It's Acolyte Eve. So we're reading in Acolyte Eve with the latest episode of The Acolyte.
We're so early.
We're so early. Yeah, we're ahead of the game, guys. We're talking about spoilers for episode 7. We know everything that went down on Brendok, and we're here to spoil it for you.
I can't believe Chimere and Osha fucked.
Yeah, that was
with the helmet.
With the helmet on, which is pretty risque, but you know, to each their own.
Monetized yet? Did we get it?
Probably. Maybe this is why they don't send me the books. Maybe this is why they don't send me to Lucasfilm dinners and farms and shit.
Maybe it's because it's all under my umbrella.
Maybe.
Maybe we should start the Hyperspace channel.
We have enough videos, that's for fucking sure.
Yeah, it's like, fucking look over here. Otherwise, the log is like, oh, subscribe. Episode 117. The fuck?
Yeah, no. Yeah. Episode, it's kind of like comic books. Like, let's do a relaunch. Start at issue 50. Anyways, woo! This is great. This was amazing. Episode 6.
Short.
Yeah, your YouTube short. I'm loving those, by the way. Once again, guys, like and subscribe to Nathan Rojas' channel, the channel that you're watching this video on, because it was a funny video. Nathan, like, wow, oh, okay.
I mean, I had to condense that so fucking. I had like
I can tell.
I had over double what was in there. I was like, fuck, shave it. Lose this Chimere bit. I'm not even gonna have to get to Soul. Like literally, I didn't have anything selected by Soul. That was all just Chimere stuff. I was whittling down.
Fuck. Do whatever gives you the views. Do you have the full video? You just have the YouTube short, or your video gets?
Yeah, I got my full recordings in my archive.
Okay, yeah.
I should do it a Soul.
Yeah, because what?
Part 1, Part 2.
Yeah, exactly. But man, I would say I don't know where to start, but I took copious amounts of notes, so I know where to start. This is the most notes I've taken for an Acolyte episode. I don't want to say for a Star Wars episode, maybe because the Bad Batch has double episodes. It gets to probably this amount of length, but there was just so much I wanted to think about and say. And there was so much I was writing down before even rewatching the episode, because, you know, behind the curtain, I usually take my notes as I rewatch the episode and input my thoughts in between. But like when I'm listening to a podcast, and I watched like 2 or 3 podcasts this weekend, I also wrote down notes because I was like, I don't want to forget my thought process here when I write down my other notes. So I took DLTR, whatever they say on Twitter these days. I took a lot of notes.
You transcribed the script is what it sounds like.
Basically, yeah. I actually got a lot of like the key, like Oshamir.
Did you see the clip? Did you see the clip of the audio description of Chimere getting in the bath?
That was great. The audio description for Chimere entering the bath and when Chimere gets pressed against the wall by Osha, freaking hilarious. It was like Osha looks into his averts her gaze intensely and then locks eyes with Chimere. I'm like, yeah, this is my shit. This
was intentional.
This was Nathan. Every episode we're talking about like, could this be the best show ever? Could it be the best show ever? If it does X, Y, and Z, maybe it'll be like perfection. And oh my gosh, this episode is for The Last Jedi lovers, The Last Jedi truthers, out there. It was very Last Jedi coded. Whenever I just think about rewatch this episode, because you see the island. We all see an island, not the Octu Island. By the way, I took a lot of notes. There were some things from Leslie Headland's Collider interview with Maggie Lovett that I really enjoyed, and I did add to my notes as well. There's a lot of interviews that I was reading over the last weekend. Was it last weekend? Now I'm confused. Either way, I took a lot of notes. Yeah, it was last weekend. These were interviews that came out after our last podcast that were about everything that came out about episode 6. Yeah, that makes sense. Anyways, a lot of great Osha and Chimere talk, and a lot of great, just relationships. We're getting enemies to lovers, which is something I would never, ever thought to have uttered in the Star Wars show post-Tross. I'm like, they're not going to do it again. I'm super excited for the Acolyte to get into the Sith and everything like that, to get into Osha, to get into with May. But the direction this show has turned, a show that I was, we were already loving, has turned to from a very good show to an excellent, unforgettable, please deliver me season 2, or I'm going to do some bad things, Lucasfilm. Like, I need this season 2, like I need air to breathe right now. Like, I need it right now. I need confirmation.
I've pivoted from watching, like, what is the situation with the Sith and the time in the galaxy, and how will the Council be affected, to are Osha and Chimere gonna date? Like, I was like, oh, I can't wait to tune in next week to see my fucking messy people.
I know, right? Oh man, I've become obsessed, and we got the Osha and Chimere scene in episode 2, and people are like, oh, okay, this might be something here when he gets it into her face. And I even referenced it in episode 5 or 4 when the stranger at the time got up to Osha, tilted his head. I was like, this is the same exact thing that Chimere did. Coincidence? I think not. And then, of course, it ended up being Chimere. And then just it helps recontextualize everything we've been seeing. And just episode 6 in general is so blatantly romantic, blatantly vulnerable, blatantly enemies to lovers that it's just incredibly delicious. But 7 minutes in, before I get into like the events of the episode, there's a couple of things I just want to say about their relationship, because their relationship is key, but also Sol and May, there's some very interesting things there as well. But getting into the episode itself, where was it? Like laying some ground rules for their relationship. I think a key part of this, in that Leslie confirmed in the Collider interview, is that Chimere was not manipulating Osha throughout this entire episode. And I thought that was key. I thought that was obvious from the beginning. It's very Reylo, how do I say it? Reylo focus anchored. Like that was the seed. Even Leslie admitted it. I was like, oh wow, we're going that deep. In the sense that, like, in The Last Jedi, while Kylo is saying things and Ben is saying things that like are from his perspective, and they're obviously dark side coded. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean that these are things that Rey shouldn't hear, right? And it doesn't mean that he's telling a lie. These are his version of events in terms of, like, of course, what happened with Luke, but also letting the past die, right? All those things are his prerogatives. Doesn't mean he's right or wrong, but he's telling what he believes is his truths, his inner truths. And I think Chimere is the same thing here. Every line out of him, whether we want to believe it or not, from his perspective, he's telling the truth a lot of the time to help unlock the inner truths within Osha. Osha has some things locked inside of her that she hasn't really had the feeling, the pursuit to unlock. And it's up to Chimere to unlock it for her. And this was special because I always thought it would be May to help unlock this relationship or this thing inside of Osha, but it ends up being Chimere. And I just think it's very important that they established that we established that before we get into the episode, that like Chimera genuinely wants to unlock a part of Osha that has been locked up inside of her. And yes, it's part of his seduction, it's part of his, other people would call it corruption, but at the same time, he desires a master and pupil. So it's a corruption in the sense that like he's trying to break down her rigid Jedi rules and unlock rules that he can relate with and that she both needs as well. And that's why she really stays on the island. We'll get into that. But it doesn't mean like Chimera doesn't want something out of Osha, right? Like whether he romantically desires her, which is true, whether he wants a pupil, also true. Like romantic interest, wanting a pupil, those things can be true. He also obviously wants to, he doesn't just want like, hey, Osha, I want you, and then we can live happily ever after. Like, I would love that, but Chimera obviously has a goal in mind. He's not like, even though he professes freedom, he does have a goal in mind. He has an end goal that he hasn't necessarily shared with Osha. What that goal is, I don't know. From the beginning of this effing show, before this whole Chimera was the Sith relationship has been revealed, enemies to lovers, I always thought he wants either Osha or May. It started to seem more like Osha by episode 3. But either way, he wants Osha, episode 4, I mean. He wanted Osha to become his pupil, become his acolyte, in my opinion, to defeat his Sith master. That's always been my theory. Check the podcast, guys. I've always said so. So and I think episode 6 really cemented that belief in me. That he really wants the pupil to either surpass his master, or he either just ran away, got injured by his master. We'll get to that. And then wants a pupil so he can create this different sect while still being a Sith, or at least what the Jedi call a Sith, right? Doesn't necessarily mean Knights of Ren, I don't believe, but like doesn't necessarily believe he wants like a freedom or anything, create something else or whatever. I just think he wants a pupil to create some kind of like group or pair with Osha. And I always thought to usurp his master. Whether it's to usurp his master or to continue running away from his master, who I do think is appearing in episode 8. I think we'll learn more about that in episode 8, more of his personal goals. So that's the part I'm just super, super curious to see. What else was I going to say? Before I'll wait for that. But yeah, I just love in general how vulnerable he was in this episode. And the episode, let's just break this down now, is called Teach/Corrupt. We're bringing back the slashes. And this was fascinating to me. Of course, we got Day and Night, episodes 4 and 5, just one word. Most likely because they were supposed to be one episode, but then they just randomly split it up. I don't want to say randomly, because obviously they thought about it as writers do. And the writer came out and said, like, this is where we'd like to end episode 5 or 4. But still, it still seems like one episode. Like I could see definitely a situation where we get 1 hour block and the episode is just called Day/Night. But either way,
you have a perfect transition of Chimera knocking out all the Jedi, everything goes black, and Osha wakes up in a haze.
Exactly, yeah, and I think it just would have been a more seamless transition there. But we're back with the duality, and I think that makes sense. Osha and May are now in different locations. While episode 4 and 5, they were reuniting. They were in the process of reuniting. So Day/Night. It makes sense. But now we're in different locations here, Nathan. And what do you think about this whole teach and corrupt? Who's doing the teaching? Who's doing corrupting? Is this both? So what do you think here?
I think it is a very clear distinction that Chimera is teaching some new perspectives to Osha, while Soul, I believe, is self-reflecting on some internal corruptment throughout whatever may have truly went down.
What down on Brendock? Possibly. Yeah, because Soul talks about like he says that we got to save your sister. Or when he hugs Osha, or what he thinks is Osha, it's actually May. We'll get into that as well. But like he says, your sister May was corrupted. So a lot of, and then Osha also uses the words, "I'm not my sister. You can't corrupt me." So they do bring reference to corruption as well in both sides of the story. In terms of my notes, I think it's both in a sense. I think Osha is obviously being taught by Chimere. She's being taught by Chimere. Other people like May and Soul think she's being corrupted by Chimere. So that goes into both of these instances there. May, on the other hand, is about to be taught by Soul. That's more of an episode 7 kind of thing there. But it could go into May was somebody who was corrupted and is now getting taught. So I think, unlike the other episodes where I think one character could really fit one word, I think both characters fit both words here. In this,
you could also kind of see, like, from the traditional Jedi perspective, Soul kind of imbuing some corrupt behavior. Like, he's not returning messages to the council. He's turning off his transmitter. He's breaking away from his mission, going to a completely different location.
That's very true, man. And, for some theories that, like, not theories, but some discussions that by the end of the episode, Soul came across more quote unquote villainous than Chimere, right? And it's in the sense that, like, Chimere wakes up, or doesn't wake up, but just like treats Osha very kindly. Here's a bed, here's clothes, here's food, there's a bath over there, join me.
There's me.
Yeah, there's me, right? Boom, bow. And for Soul, near the end of the episode, he chains up May. It says, "You're going to listen." I'm like, okay, I get it, because in his eyes, May is like kind of quote unquote dangerous, and he really wants her to listen. But at the same time, Chimere's talking to Osha, expects her to listen, and she's just, listening. She's cool, calm, collected. And Soul doesn't have that same trust in May. But either way, the imagery of it, like May just chained her like a captive, not great for a Jedi Master like Soul. So yeah, it could just be that slow corruption within the Order, a corruption of his soul, basically. His soul, Soul. So yeah, it's very, very interesting there. But yeah, this episode is just fantastic. It's incredibly vulnerable on both sides here, as Soul and as Chimere are very vulnerable to both Osha and May in their individual perspectives. But yeah, going from the beginning here, I love how she wakes up just as she always does. It's very much Finn, the Last Jedi, but it's also I gotta tell you something.
We love Finn.
We love Finn. I'm kidding, guys. I mean, I'm not kidding, but I am kidding. But we love Finn in this house. Finn is a great character in The Last Jedi. But I love how she wakes up. This is very, akin to what she does in episode 1 after the ship crash. Episode 5, when she wakes up after getting force pushed by Chimere. Which again, when I rewatch episode 5 now, I'm just like, I mentioned it last week in terms of like when he just flicks Osha off. How long had he wanted Osha? How long did he realize he made a mistake with May? Was it only until he got to Kofar when he was like, now I got to kill May? Or was this always part of the plan? How far ahead is this guy, Chimere, really thinking? I'm always curious. Because again, he chased after Osha, never really tried to kill her. The only instance was when he threw his lightsaber in a curved formation. Soul came out and blocked it. Was he expecting Soul to do that? Or was he trying to decapitate Osha? The world may never know, but it worked out for him because Osha gets to live and they get to live happily ever after, hopefully. Please.
It's an interesting thought, because I imagine Chimera probably dropped all things with May as soon as he was tied up. He was like, all right, this is all right. This wasn't my idea. So
yeah. Guys, I rewatched on episode 5 an unhealthy amount. I mean, it's at least 3-4 times now. But when or episode 4 as well. Like when he's hanging upside down, I'm like, what is going through this guy's head? May, where are you going? Like, this bumbling fool. The same character we see in episode 6. It's so
God, I would love if they did a fucking shot, like just going through. I would love if he was just like and as May's leaving, you just see his face just like sink to just like fucking fuck this place up.
Yeah, she's going to die. So yeah, wrong. Force fools are back. Wrong answer. Anyway,
but to the point in terms of like maybe like deciding to go from OSHA, we do find out in this episode the helmet he's wearing is a bit of a sensory deprivation type deal that is, as he describes, just you and the Force. So it's possible when he's approaching and OSHA's there, like the closest to him, he's probably is sensing, some uncertainty of her path in this moment of the story.
I love that idea so much, dude. Because yeah, the cortosis, the helmet thing, it lends so much contextualization to that scene, to every scene that we've seen from him, but specifically the OSHA scene, because he now has a romantic, close, vulnerable relationship with OSHA. It's like, what is he seeing when he floats down there, looks onto her? Like, what is he sensing? I think when he sees her, it's kind of like when Kylo first meets Rey. It's like I love these first interactions. Like when Kylo first meets Rey, also in the Dark Forest. Love me some good fairy tales. Like when Kylo first sees Rey, with the hindsight of The Last Jedi, or even just The Force Awakens, if you're looking closely, like he's checking her out, really like looking left to right. He only gets interrupted by the stormtrooper who's like, "Hey, the rebels are on their way," and that's when he has to like boom. Right, and
he's walking slow. He's like taking his time. Right, he's like he's got her like pinned, but
yeah, he has her frozen. Then he's just like boom, boom. I'm like, Kylo, what are you doing, boy? And then he like bridal carries her.
Yeah.
Did he bridal carry OSHA? Did Kylo bridal carry OSHA to his ship and back down to the island? Probably. That's the scene I want to see. I would love to see that.
A similar situation, not to be breaking down the 8-year-old Force Awakens, 9-year-old, Jesus. But you can also imagine of a similar idea that Ben's probably like putting the saber to Rey to kind of like bring out any like underlying emotion in her mind to just like bubble to the surface. Just like, all right, what are you processing? What are you really thinking about at this moment? In your could be final moments that it won't be, but like she doesn't know that.
Yeah. And yeah, you're right. And Kylo is also very good at sensing people's inner thoughts, obviously. So yeah, that's a very cool description there. But we see her, she's wake up, and I love how Chimera's home here is not your typical underground, disgusting place. If anybody saw like Furiosa, this isn't like the maggots place in Furiosa.
Oh,
not that kind of amputated. Yeah, not that kind of evil, dark, layer-ish cave. No, this is well kept. She wakes up. There's like a little place where she was sleeping, obviously a bed. She has clothes in the corner, probably maize. Food is bubbling on the pot. Water right there waiting for her when she wakes up, like keeping her nice and refreshed. She looks up at her abdomen, and she was bandaged by Chimera as well. By the way,
pillow.
What?
Mint on her pillow.
Yeah, exactly. And I wonder, like, are we gonna have? Is this a Baby Yoda situation where is Chimera not his real name? We have to wait till season 2 to realize what his real name is. Like, I really wonder. What?
Yonrog, something.
Balrog. Yeah, like I wonder if like we obviously, I think he's a Sith. I think he does have a Darth name that we don't know about yet.
Even just Darth Chimera sounds pretty good.
Darth Chimera, obviously, like Darth Chimera. That's been talked about in a lot of podcasts I've been listening to, like Chimera, you know, the lion, the turtle, the snake, kind of mythology where it's like person who can be multiple things at once. Just like Chimera is like the bumbling fool, but also the calm guy that he is with Osha, but also the murderer that we saw in episode 5. Like he's 3 things at once here.
There's a ship called the Chimera, isn't there?
You mean the Chimera?
Chimera, yeah. Which ship was that?
I don't know. I'm terrible with Star Wars ships, guys.
I'm trying to remember.
But
I remember the Chimera.
No, Darth Maul is a scimitar. The Darth like scimitar or something like that. Thank you. You'll find it. But yeah, the Bed's maid. She's healed. We thought she healed. We thought he force healed her last week when he rolled her over, but that wasn't the case because it's obviously bandaged up. So he like physically healed her. But she walks out to what looks like Octo. Oh. And it says later on, it says unknown planet, but not yet. But it's confirmed that it's not Octo. Yeah, what is it?
The Chimera is a Thrawn ship.
Thrawn ship from Ahsoka.
But also with a C, not a Q.
Yeah. You see it on what?
It's spelled with a C, not a Q.
C, not a Q. Interesting. Yeah. So yeah, I think that was the same one that was in Ahsoka and Rebels, I guess. Same thing.
Dragon tattoo belly.
So yeah, but it's confirmed that it's not Octo. But basically the symbolism, like you obviously know that Leslie wants us to think it's Octo. Like what she's getting across is that like physically via the landscape, it has that same vibe of beautiful forest paradise-esque island.
It has similar creatures. They like share like a skin texture color.
Exactly. Those creatures, I don't have them on my notes. I forget what they're called now, but I don't have them in notes. But on StarWars.com, they have a specific name. So they're not like the smaller versions of like the Thalas sirens from TLJ. So it is a brand new planet.
I was like, if you give me a porg, I'll confirm it.
I was looking for it, but yeah, no porg here. But because it's not Octo, the high rumor now is that it is Baldemic, which is a Legends planet. That again, I'm terrible with Legends. I'm terrible with planets, but I should remember this because I did read Darth Plagueis. Granted, I read Darth Plagueis back in like literally 10 years ago. I think like in 2014 when Disney bought Star Wars. I started reading Plagueis and the Sith books. But either way, the Baldemic is an ocean planet with rocky tropical islands located within the outer rim. It says it has a harsh climate that kind of goes with the harsh waves. It discourages many people from visiting there, despite the beauty of the giant rockside cliffs, the beaches, and the oceans. Very, very, very similar to what we see in the Acolyte. Along with that, there are rich deposits of cortosis ore, which eventually fell into the hands of Darth Tenebrous and Darth Plagueis. Darth Plagueis, of course, there was a cave-in on this planet. Darth Tenebrous gets caught, and Plagueis refuses to save him. And that's when Plagueis, of course, Tenebrous dies, or Plagueis is like, time to find me another pupil. And the whole book is about finding Sidious, Palpatine, in Naboo at the time, a young Palpatine. It's some of the best. It's one of the best, still one of the best Star Wars books of all time because of Palpatine's character arc, dark character arc that I just adore.
I need to look into it because I haven't read it yet. But is Palpatine a practicing politician before they find him?
No, but his family is in. I don't know. I think he is actually. Yeah, he's like a student within the political sphere, but he has a whole family, and I think he's just like, he comes from money, that kind of person. So I think his father was a senator, and then he kind of takes up the mantle and his family, you know.
Hmm.
But it's a great book. The more I read My Hero Academia, the more I'm like Palpatine. Or I wonder if Horikoshi, the author of My Hero Academia, got a lot of All for One from Palpatine, because it's very much very similar characters in terms of, you know, people were just very lonely. By the way, I caught up on the My Hero manga. I'm all caught up. There's 4 more chapters left until the series ends permanently, which is very sad.
Oh.
I've been reading the series since 2014.
How far is the manga ahead from the anime, would you say? Like, if you were to measure, like, in your brain season-wise?
No, season 7 right now is on the war arc, and the war arc finished 2 months ago. So I think in writing sense we're like a year ahead, but in terms of the episodes, which are covering 3 episodes, 2 to 3 chapters per episode, I think they're only about 40 to 50 chapters behind. So I think when season 7 could cover the end of My Hero. I think. Maybe not. We're on season 7 right now. There's 24 episodes. We're 6 episodes, or we're like 11. Okay, never mind. I can't. But season 8 is the end. Season 8 is the end for sure. Anyways, yeah, they're very close. Like by the end of season 7, you'll be very, very close to the end. We'll have to wait and see.
One more movie.
Yeah, there's a movie coming out this October 11th. Actually,
there you go.
They're probably gonna do one more though. One more thing. So yeah, that's Baldemic. Again, the planet with the harsh climate, oceans, plant life, all that kind of stuff. But she sees his ship in the distance, and as she walks down the path, she sees Chimera just strolling along the path of the island right behind her. And the funny question is, like, how long has this dude been walking back and forth, ready to take his bath, waiting for her to wake up? Right?
That is funny.
He was obviously waiting for her to wake up. And it's just like, how many times does he have to act like he's washing his clothes until he's like, oh, she's waking up, time to pick up my stuff and go take a bath so she can follow me and she can see how vulnerable I am.
That's what. No, Evan. It was the will of the Force. She woke up at this moment. The Force wanted her to get an eyeful.
Basically, exactly.
This is going to be major in your decision.
The cosmic force is really pulling through for Osha and Chimera now. So
yeah, the force is not in balance at the moment.
Yeah, not at all. So Sol leaves for Kofar. We cut back to Sol here. He declares emergency code 0, which is a Easter egg from what is it called? Not Squadrons, Legends game. It's the one with the clone troopers. Those, I forget what it's called. Like those Republic Commandos. Thank you, Nathan. I have it. I did not download it.
It's so funny when I'm such on like the outskirts of like stories, because I'm like, wait, but these look like clones, but like, what's this? Isn't this before the Republic? What is happening? Yeah,
it's messy. But the faulty tech makes the transmission cut out. He says emergency code 0. My whole team is dead. It's just like there's so much weight when he says that. It's like, oh my god, like it's just so much. He's exhausted at this point. But I made a note in here that like this faulty tech that we see throughout the episode that kind of starts here is very emblematic of. Thank you, Andrew. Smash that like button, ring the bell too, so you know when we go live. Usually not on Mondays, but like whenever we do podcasts, commentaries, etc.
Didn't I say that I should do a new ring the bell animation where Chimera's throwing?
Yeah. Ding. It was the start of something new. We never knew.
Wow.
But yeah, this faulty tech is very emblematic of a broken mindset, a broken team. It's very similar to why George had faulty tech in Empire Strikes Back, why Brad Bird used faulty tech in Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. In cinema, whenever there's like faulty tech throughout a spy or some kind of mission or some kind of story, it's usually showcasing somebody's broken ideals, broken mindset, a broken physically team. In Empire, that was Han Solo. Like broken. Like Luke and them are on different parts of the galaxy at the time. The walls are closing in. The might of the Empire is physically crumbling the walls around them as they left Hoth, and eventually they get caught. And it's a similar thing in the Acolyte here, where the walls are crumbling around Soul. The decisions he's made led, it wasn't his fault that they all got slaughtered, but his mission, Chimera was there. A plus B equals death of his Jedi. And so, rightfully or not rightfully, he blames himself for the death of his Padawan and the other Jedi. The walls are crumbling around Soul. And what I love about this whole storyline with May is that we are seeing a part of Soul that we haven't seen before. Soul was a very confident, cool, calm, collected character. And what I love from these scenes with May is that he's showcasing a vulnerable side of him that is letting loose a lot of this anger, frustration, confusion, and curiosity that we'll get to here. May hears young May's test as she walks into the dining area. That was pretty cool. You hear like echoes of young May saying like, "Oh, ship droid," the whole Jedi visual test program that we saw from Osha's perspective, but we never saw from May. May just basically says like, she comes out and Osha's like, "Okay, I'll lie." But we never saw what May's test looked like. But this was our first glimpse of seeing what May went through, and it's very similar to what Osha went through. So May is walking around once again in Osha clothing. She's about to kill Soul when she gets up into the pilot's cabin. Again, a lot of parallels here between Osha and May and how they react initially to their new partnerships. I don't want to say partnership, but just like the new men in this episode in terms of May to Soul and Osha to Chimera. Like they're all apprehensive and she's ready to kill, but then she doesn't. As Soul says like, "Hey, Osha, take the wheel." And Osha has to take the wheel. And while she takes the wheel and enters space, we see Soul, very fascinatingly, in one of the best scenes in Disney Star Wars, really break down Nathan. And this was very emotional. And this was probably one of the best acted scenes I've ever seen in the Star Wars universe. Beautifully well done. It captures such a range of emotions in this scene as he's overlooking the monitor, slams his fist on the ground or on the table, and he breathes. He's heavy breathing. He slowly starts to catch his breath again, but you can see the pain, you can see the anger, you can see the confusion that he's feeling all in this one shot as the camera lingers on him. What do you think of this scene from Soul?
He just like me for real. But actually, he's first of all, Lee Jung-jae is phenomenal in this role. And again, it's always so much impressive when you remember he learned English so fast to do this.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I know he's already a good actor. I can't believe I still haven't watched Squid Game, but I'm about to because of him.
And because Squid Game season 2 releases in December.
That's right. That's true.
Early Christmas present. Yeah, he has that red hair, which that was in the final episode. Didn't love it. Hopefully it goes away.
Anyway,
Anyway.
yeah, it's a phenomenal scene. I just feel so heartbroken that it seems we're going through a very like crestfallen journey for Soul, because he's already like so sad. There's so much that's that leads to this outburst of emotion from him. He lost all these Jedi, and I'm sure there's a lot of things rattling around in Chimera's head, just like, he's right, I did bring Jackie here. Why the fuck would I do that?
Yeah.
And not to mention everything that happened back on Kofar way back when. That must be so emotionally tasking on him that it's hitting him in these moments. And I think that's a big thing when like he hugs Osha, is just like, thank God I still have you.
Yeah.
And that being, you can even like see by like the end of the episode when he does have like May tied down, it's like, I don't have anyone here with me. So I'm going to go get the one person I do have left.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he's also like been like self-reflective of how, like, again, the Chimera is right. I did act out of emotion. I almost killed this unarmed person. That's not what we do. What am I doing?
Yeah. And if Soul, the light of the Jedi, in a sense, at least the light of this show, the story that they're telling within these characters, if he falls, that could be, that could spell, we already know the title of episode 8, which is called like Doom, apparently. That could spell doom to the Jedi Order. Like, very similar to how Qui-Gon spelled doom to the prequel Jedi. Soul could be the, stepping stone, the branch that has fallen for these Jedi 100 years ago in this story. If he could continue to go down this path of like loss and the loss of hope and really can't live up to his expectations, his own expectations, and be the person that he once was. Like, maybe he gets a sense of relief and release after he tells this story in episode 7. We'll have to see what happens with him after that. But at the same time, we'll get to it. I'll wait to say my theories. But like in general, like, he's off to save Osha. And I don't think he's going to get what he wants when he reunites on Brendock. Or
Evan, I'm scared that he's not walking away.
We already said he had the biggest death flag in the world in episode 4.
Yes, and then our two young and brightest were taken.
He's still on the list. Death is not forgotten.
He's still on the list, but I don't even know if it would be as simple as just like the bad guy strikes him down. There could be just like a lot more behind it. Not just like he was taken off the board, but like it could just be a self-retribution sin story,
Oh, that too. Yeah. I mean, yeah. There's tons of routes they could go, and I have a lot of theories I want to share leading into episode 7. Sorry for the podcast listeners there. With headphones on. But yeah, I know. I can't even hear your fan. It's actually really nice. It's like
that's
82 degrees in here, dude. It's hot.
Dude, Orlando sucks.
Yeah, really?
Every day I was like, what do you need? It's 95. I'm like applying sunscreen, it's melting off.
Oh, gross. I always do like the sunscreen spray these days.
That's what we did.
Oh, still, yeah, not great. But so then Basil starts to restart Pip. I thought they would be more of a like trying to talk to Soul in this episode, but they don't really try and do that. But they do try and beat up May, which is very funny. Very funny. We'll get to that. But yeah, Chimera, back to Kofar in the morning. Chimera starts taking his clothes off. I started losing my mind live. Me and Jalen were like, this isn't happening. Oh, no, he's hot. This can't be happening. And when he takes the shirt off, I'm like, oh, okay, it's just going to be him in the shirt. But then he goes more. They're taking the whole clothes off. Osha's just seeing him right there, seeing his just plain old naked. It is crazy. First nude scene in all of Star Wars, right? Like
kind of Solo, kind of.
Solo, yeah, Han and Chewie in the shower. Romantic, no. But like, brotherly romantic. But like,
in terms of like full blown, like, oh, something could spark here. Yeah.
That was
I didn't notice
shocking.
until someone was making like a funny edit. But like when Chimera comes out of the water, Osha's looking down.
Yeah, I didn't realize. Like, I was trying to watch the eyes, but I was also like starstruck that we're actually getting this in Star Wars. I was like, Leslie, you're the best. So like, I was
wow, this is a good show.
This is a good show. I was just so shocked. Like, she sees him from the back fully naked. She sees him from the front fully naked. It's as vulnerable as you can get, which is why I love this whole relationship, this whole episode, because it's very blatant in terms of what's going on. Both he's physically and emotionally vulnerable to Osha. It's a complete dichotomy to what we saw in episode 5, where he's just this brooding essence of darkness, just amongst the shadows, floating down like a dark prince. And it's just like, it's very creepy and unsettling. And now we're totally wiping that away. That's still there, obviously. That's still a part of him. But so is this, the person who's vulnerable, taking a bath, just chilling. And it's really remarkable that we're just seeing this. I can't say it enough how like this is incredible storytelling. And awesome color theory, because as he's coming out, he gets like, white shirt, wearing these white garbs, symbolizing like the light, not the light that's inside.
My man just got baptized.
Yeah, right. Like it's symbolizing like he has the white while she's wearing gray. And this was also referenced in the Leslie Headland Collider interview, but she reinforces it. Yeah, this is color theory. This is when you want to gut across a change within the character without them verbally saying it. The show, the setting, the characters themselves are saying it for you via their clothing. Osha's in the gray. What does that mean? Not a gray Jedi, but just emotionally, she's in between the dark and the light at this point. She's touching upon anger, fear, and loneliness, which are dark side-ish tendencies, but also she comes from a light side background, and she's trying to physically, emotionally juggle that in this episode. And then Chimera, of course, is helping her, teaching her these thought processes, but not in a bad way. Again, he's wearing white. He's coming across as kind. And I do love how Leslie also reinforced how, although this is similar to Reylo, even the Reylo fans, myself included, recognize how this is not like Reylo, where in Last Jedi, Rey's like, I see light in him. I see light in Ben Solo. And that was beautiful.
This is not I can fix him.
No, yeah, this is not I can fix him. This is, even though I loved that about Reylo, that's what makes Reylo so freaking great, especially in Tross when he flings across the lightsaber. He's there to save Rey. It's from darkness to light, all thanks to Rey. We love that. That's not what we're getting, even though that's enemies to lovers. This is also enemies to lovers, but subsect-wise, it's not Osha being like, there is still light in this guy. No, it's her realizing more about herself via the dark side prince here in Chimera, but also is them becoming equals. And that's the fascinating thing. Because right now, they're not necessarily equals. He's teaching her a lot of stuff. But Chimera is obviously hoping that they can become equals in hopes of what eventually he says, the power of two, which we'll try and decipher what that means. But yeah, like they're
finally, by the way.
Really good, right? Pretty good.
It's really good. It's really good.
Pretty good. Yeah. It hasn't appeared in an episode yet, right? So
I don't think so.
Maybe at the end of episode 7. Because we are going back to the witches, the coven. Maybe episode 8.
Maybe. It might not even play at all because, continuity of credits. I don't know.
I always figured that, I thought they said like this will play in front of one of the end credits.
If so, it's cool. Probably a big like May Osha type of episodes.
Series finale. I get season finale. Not series. Finale.
Hold your tongue, sir.
Yeah, don't be rash. So we'll have to wait and see for that. But yeah, it's just I was shocked. And Chimera says when he's still in the pool, he says like, "How does it feel?" He's just holding the lightsaber. Feels good to hold. Hey, I never. I was like, what do you? First of all, feels good to hold one in your hands again. I'm like, what are we talking about here, Chimera? Leslie, again, flabbergasted.
This is it's the greatest show on earth.
It really is. It really is. I thought we'd never get a show like this on Disney Star Wars. Never. But it feels so good.
To hold in your hand.
And then he says, I assume you didn't keep your old one when you left the order. Again, referencing the lightsaber. But it's like, but it does, we've had this theory for a long time. Osha's main arc in season 1 is her reconnecting with the Force. We established that, you and I, in the beginning in our episode 1 and 2 commentary, where she was struggling to use the Force to even free herself from the falling ship out of space. Her journey is to connect with the Force. That's blatant. That's consistent with this episode as well. Here we thought that was going to come from her reunion with her sister. Once she is able to finally deal with what's happening with her sister, what happened on Brendok, then she'll connect with the Force. That is still the case because somehow she will learn what happened. It won't just be Soul telling May. I don't think, at least. I think maybe with the helmet, she will learn about what May is going through, and they'll learn vicariously. That'd be kind of cool. She connects to her sister, kind of like how she connected to young May, whoever that was in episode 1 and episode 4, or episode 1 and 2. Maybe she can connect with May on a dyadish level when she puts the helmet on, and that's how she'll learn what happened. And then Chimera can be there to, give his thoughts after the fact. But anyways, I love how that she is connected with the Force, and I bring that up because when he mentioned like your lightsaber, I always thought her lightsaber was just kept somewhere. She hid it herself, but she might have just kept it or gave it back to the Order. And if that's the case, like, it makes me very curious about what the finale is going to entail. Because for some reason, we got a poster today with her holding Chimera's lightsaber too. It just for some reason, man, I have a belief this show will end season 1 with her holding a lightsaber. Whether that means Chimera's or her own again. Season 2, we're going to get, of course, a costume change, but we're going to get her holding a lightsaber, her developing that equal nature to Chimera, who also, by the way, I'll just say it now, Osha and Chimera are not dying in season 1.
No,
so
I don't see that happening.
There's too many mysteries that even Leslie teased, like, we thought Chimera was going to have a smaller role in season 1 until we saw Mandy's screen test, and we're like, time to rewrite these episodes because he's so good. And I'm like, okay, so obviously a lot of Mandy's secrets about, like, I've lived a long time. There's so many secrets about Chimera that we don't know that are obviously being seeded for season 2. They're not really season 1 questions. How old Chimera isn't really relevant to season 1, but Osha and May are. So I think those stories are going to be ended. Does that mean May's going to die, though?
I can only see May dying if that ends up being a catalyst to send Osha over the edge.
Over the edge. I see that too. But
also, I wouldn't be surprised if Soul has held on to Osha's saber. Whether or not that's his ship that they're on, that he would have that stored or whatnot. I don't know, but I could see that.
I could easily see a scenario. Cut to the end of episode 7 or the beginning of episode 8. By the way, I think all of next week is a flashback. That's why I'm lowering my expectations on how much we're going to see of Chimera and Osha again, or how much we're going to see of May and Soul. I think all of next week is a flashback. But anyways, or this week, tomorrow. Nathan, I get to see the beginning of episode 8 happening where he unlocks a cabinet ready to save Osha and gives her lightsaber that he's been keeping ever since she left the Order. Oh my God. And if he dies in that same episode by Osha's hands, maybe? No. But my heart would just run in circles, dude. That would just be incredible. But yeah, there's so much. 52 minutes already? How is that possible?
Wow.
Anyways, so he says, your stance is good. Keep one elbow higher. Again, he's teaching her. And again, this goes into the fact that he is teaching her. He's telling her the truth. He's trying to help her unlock the truth within herself. And while others like Osha or like May and Soul might think he's corrupting her, he is teaching her. And he says, if you're not going to join me, I'd like to put my clothes back on. What the fudge, Chimera? If you're not going to join me, there was opportunity, Osha, and you denied him? I'm kidding.
It should have been that. No. Got it.
Wow,
yeah,
that was such a... What are we doing here?
Wow. We're eating good is what we're doing. I need 5 seasons of the show.
Me and you both, bro. I need at least 3 seasons of this show. It'll be the best show ever by the end of its run. But yeah, she's talking. He's putting his clothes on. This is so. I read A, fanfic, but B, like enemies to lovers, romantic fantasy novels that depict this to a T in terms of like the romantic evil character being the exact opposite of what the hero of the story thinks they are. It's like, you're not supposed to be acting like this. You just murdered my friend, or you just committed this atrocity. But it's a simple symbolism of vulnerability. And it's, used so well here. And he says like, you talk vengeance, like, she's pointing the lightsaber at him. He's like, oh, killing me now is good, but only a few hours later. But back then, the heat of battle, it's not. Like, what's up with that?
I've been loving how open he has been with just like Osha's not a prisoner at all.
Yeah.
These moments is like, Saber's to him is like, go ahead, I know you want to. Ship's right there. Start swimming now or wait for the tide. Keys are in. Like,
yep. I'm cooking something if you want to eat.
Yeah, if you want, cozy bed.
He's so casual. He's so casual. He's so calm. He's not being like, you're going to do this. He's not keeping her prisoner. And again, this also is very different from, that whole Rey and Kylo, Ben and Chimera relationship, where it's like Ben is very much, somebody said on Twitter, it's like Beauty and the Beast, where Beast, evil guy, but then Rey helps him become good. This is more like, Dracula and his wife. Very much so like the very first episode of Castlevania. Dracula murders a lot of people, but then here comes across a blonde, nice young woman, and and it's like, and that'll do it. It's like, and I've always said in Star Wars, like, no matter how evil you are, it takes one, in fiction in general, it takes one person to show interest, kindness to you, and that can change your entire worldview. It's why people love the Dracula story so much in every, iteration, adaptation. It's like there's always a romantic tinge to it. And Chimera does have that Dracula-esque nature to him. Because he lived so long, apparently, also, but also because this darkness within him that he accepts. Like Dracula accepts he's a vampire, but at the same time, he has romantic interest to a lot of individuals in numerous adaptations. But like
it's funny, isn't it? That like what? It is funny when you just like stop to think like if we just like if there was never the scenario where Chimera killed people, he's spitting.
He's spitting. He is spitting. He's not wrong. Which I've seen the people watching this be like, I really hope Osha doesn't do X, Y, and Z. But it's like, no. I hope Osha does listen. These are things Osha needs to do that he's saying. I don't say needs, but should do that he's saying that, aren't really Jedi coded, but Osha, like he says, isn't really a Jedi anymore.
There is a compelling narrative parallel to both the Witch Coven and the Jedi for Osha, because she has, by the point in the story, walked away from both by her own volition, because it's just like, it's just not what she's looking for. And Chimera's kind of given that exploration of like, you are obviously this powerful being, but you should explore that however you see fit, not to the witches, not to the Jedi's code. What do you want? Who are you?
That is, it's very much, it's singing Zuko when he's under Lake Laogai in season 2. And when he's under Lake Laogai, he lets Appa go and he's like screaming. And Iroh's like, it's not about what Ozai wants. What do you want, Zuko? What do you want? And Zuko's like speechless. He doesn't know what his inner desire really is. He physically gets knocked out because he can't really think. Love Zuko, but like similar to Osha here, she left the coven. It wasn't right for her. We established that. She left the Jedi Order. I thought the season arc would be her reconnecting with the Force and reconnecting with the Jedi. This relationship throws everything away. She's not going back to the Jedi Order. That's done for her, which is unfortunate because that was her dream, but it was forever changed the night that the disaster happened on Brendok. That crippled her relationship with the Jedi, crippled her relationship with the Force, and now, 16 years later, it's Chimera who is finally helping her discover that third option. Mythologically speaking, there's always things in 3, right? Percy Jackson and everybody leaves in quests in groups of 3. Hercules, groups of 3. And it's very much that third option that Osha will have to find by the end of the season, I think. Will that lead towards her being a Sith acolyte? Possibly. I would still count that as a third option. But I think the series as a whole, maybe going into season 2, is going to look at a third, more just different option that's not Jedi or Sith or Witch's Coven, something that she makes all her own. Like her mother Anastasia said, like when you see a part of the thread, pull it. Don't question it, just pull it. And I think she will pull the thread and make her own choice in the finale. Whether that's chimeras or souls, you know.
It could also just be a situation of like similar to, you know, Ben not being a full-on Sith. It could just be like, yeah, Osha might end up being an acolyte to these teachings, but she might not even be about the cause, you know.
Exactly, and I think that's what's interesting. If Chimera and Osha stay together, obviously they will. But like, I think Chimera is the person who has left his Sith master, or his master has abandoned or zapped him and like get the F away, basically. Yeah. Maybe he wants that freedom away from his Sith master. That's when he finds Osha, and then they get to create something new. But they are Sith.
Yeah, I can absolutely see that. That was his like big thing of the episode prior. It's just like, I want to be able to wield the power however I see fit, not just to, you know, but you know, I just want to be who I am. And I'm naturally kind of a dark person. It's not a phase, Mom, but you know, I don't want to be confined by these rules. Like, you're confined by Jedi rules. I've been confined by these Sith rules. I don't want to be under anyone's guidance but my own.
Exactly. And the rule of two is very much not it for him. He wants the power of two, which we'll get to in a second. The power of two seems to be different. It could be connected to the coven. It could be something else entirely. He wants a wife. He wants yeah, he's like, oh,
wouldn't that be like the best thing though? Just like, yeah, no, I just want a love.
Yeah. He's like, have you ever saw When Harry Met Sally? I just, I want love. Anyways, I love a great movie. Sleepless in Seattle, When Harry Met Sally, and You Got Mail. Peak. Anyways,
that's two of the pretty top things.
Growing up watching those movies endlessly with my mom, I'm like, I can quote "You've Got Mail." Anyways, I love how she's like, "You killed? Did you kill Soul?" And he's like, "No." Did you kill May? No. Interesting how you said his name first, though. I'm like, damn! Stop it!
Stop looking at my cards.
Basically. Everybody had been not criticizing, but just like making fun of Chimera for when she says soul. He kind of like, why do you keep saying that name? Why do you love this guy so much? Like, Chimera is kind of interested, but also irritated by her relationship to Soul. It's very funny. It kind of, as an audience, I kept criticizing Osha for being very passive. She, in episode 4, wasn't willing to say goodbye to Soul. She was willing to let Soul handle the May issue without her. It takes Soul's guidance to help her push her onto this mission to find May in the first place. Like, she is so clingy, but so like distant from her relationships. It's very interesting. But now she's being more herself and assertive, thanks to Chimera.
There is something so interesting, Evan, about where the relationship of Osha and Chimera could be going, where you think back to the ending of Revenge of the Sith when Anakin's talking to Padme on Mustafar, and just like, we don't have to run and hide anymore. We can just be who we are, make things the way we want them to be. And there's a possibility that like Chimera is of a similar mindset, and there's a possibility that Osha might, be like, okay.
Yes, take his hand. Exactly.
Ray, not taking the hands. Be back.
Ray, you made the wrong choice in The Last Jedi. Just kidding. No, she didn't. But even Ray admits, which again, props to whoever wrote that line, JJ or Chris Terrio. But in Cross, when she says, "I did want to take Ben's hand," I like how Ray admitted that.
I melted.
Me too. That was like, so good, so good.
All right, I'll see it some more. I'll get more tickets.
Yeah, that line alone led to my 4 times opening weekend. I don't know why I did it to myself. But anyways, she asked him, what does he want? He says, master and pupil. Or no, he says, interesting relationship you have with Soul there, master and pupil. something I wrote in my notes says like, yeah, he recognizes that in Soul and Osha, but that's also something that he wants with Osha. She wants Osha to be with him. But also she wants Osha to be the best version of herself, and he feels like she can't do that with Soul. We cut back to Soul and May. Soul hugs May, like you mentioned earlier, and says like, thank you, and I'm sorry. And I found this very fascinating because May probably in her past 16 years is not used to this level of affection. You know, I feel like if you're watching the anime probably would have accentuated May's face there. May is a very stoic character, so she's just like, oh. I feel like anime would have been like, oh, what is this?
And anime would have absolutely, during the hug, May would have been like,
exactly. If you watch anime, you know. So yeah, I think May's not used to that affection. But it was I'm so curious here because Soul says the right things to her. He says, I'm sorry, and it's time to make things right. It's time to face the High Council. Pause. This is exactly what May wanted Torben to do. Before giving him the poison, she says, either fess up to your crimes to the High Council or etc. And she drops the poison. Torben takes the poison and croaks. This is what May wants. She's getting what she wants in terms of Soul talking to the High Council. But unfortunately for her, she's living a lie. She's saying she's Osha. And I think the reveal that Osha is May really changes things for Soul. Instead of turning himself in, he prioritizes like freeing himself in terms of telling her what happened, which he couldn't do if he just turned May into the Vernastra in the Republic, which is why he leaves. But the ship shuts down again. She goes to fix it. We cut to Senator Rayencourt. Oh, sorry. Go on.
But I think this is a moment where I think Soul begins to piece 2 and 2 together that this isn't Osha. Because,
you think so? Okay.
I think so because he asks basically like a mechanic question because he knows by this point that Osha's a mechanic, but May doesn't know Osha was a mechanic. Or what goes into that. So she's kind of blunked for a second and is like, yeah, trying to play it off. But like,
let me go back in the shit.
Yeah, and I was rewatching. I was like, oh fuck, that's the slip.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I've always wondered. Like Jalen said, my brother, he's like, I think he always knew, but I don't think he always knew. Because if he always knew, he wouldn't say like I'm gonna fess up my crimes to the.
I think that hug was too visceral.
The hug was too. Exactly, I'm with you. But right afterwards, that's a good call.
But also like any time spent where Soul is like not picking up that it's May, I think is totally justified because he is going through the ringer with clouded emotion because of all the loss he just experienced.
Yeah. Right, and I hate when people are like, "How does a Jedi Master not know that May is Osha?" Like. Jedi are not superhuman. They are human with abilities. And it's like, they're not like these all-knowing, all-powerful people. Like my dad was wondering, like, why didn't, as soon as the stranger showed up in episode 4, why didn't Soul just like force push the stranger away from Osha? It's like, these are humans. They're shocked as much as anybody else. So like,
I always had canon like special abilities is like, how much like fucking energy it is. Like, why don't you just fucking run everywhere instead of walking? It's like that's not how we function. That's just not how it works. And similar when like people are like, oh, they see like Basil being silly and this is like, oh, what this is totally inconsistent. It's like it's every Star Wars. Even Precious Andor has those silly fishermen on the beach. Like they all have those.
I couldn't agree more. Like I always think back to like, oh, George Lucas when the tonally imbalanced, horrible writing. Like George Lucas' Attack of the Clones is one of the goofiest, most fun Star Wars movies. There's a whole sequence where 3PO was going through a conveyor belt, Anakin getting his head cut off or hand cut off by a contraption. It's just like it's goofy as heck, and it's the same movie that he professes his love to Padme and he loses his mom. Two things can be the same at once, guys.
Yeah, so, you may not like full executions, but like the story is locking in.
Exactly. And I couldn't, I'm with you, man. I couldn't be more pleased about this episode and the tonal balance that they had. I had fun with people or watching Basil behind the scenes, do some weird Mission Impossible shit. It was great.
People should also remember in Attack of the Clones that like that whole conveyor belt scene was like written on a whim that George wanted to do.
It was?
Yeah, so he was like, all right, yeah, because we got the fucking blue screen blocks. Let's run. Let's do it.
Let's do it. I love that scene so much. It's so much fun. I need to rewatch Attack of the Clones. It's one of my most fun movies to watch. Even though, never mind. So yeah, shifts us down. She goes to fix it. Senator Reagan Court. People have been asking, why isn't the show getting into the politics? We got 30 seconds of some good political intrigue here. So we learn here that Senator Rancourt is A, not a fan of the Jedi, and B, he is slowly gaining support. Her ally, Vanessa Rose, says he'll call for an external review of the Jedi. But hey, you shouldn't be worried because the Jedi have always had a great relationship with the Senate, and they've always been, drumroll please, honest with the Jedi. So Vanessa, you have nothing to worry about. You guys are always honest with us, right? Not great. The transmission ends when she says it's just an ambitious senator grasping for power, and then her ally gets cut off as Mog walks in. But let's break down that exchange real quick. This is very pivotal for the future of the series, which is going to get into the slow crumbling, or I don't want to say crumbling, the slow connecting relationship, the forming relationship between the Senate and the Jedi. The Jedi still have a lot of carte blanche. Leslie did say we'll learn in episode 7 just how free the Jedi are in terms of their missions. Example being what happened with Brendock. And this is also some symbolic of what happens in the High Republic, where Jedi can just go off and be like, oh, where's Vanessa at? Oh, we haven't heard from her ever since what happened with Starlight. Where it's like, oh, she's off to. Vanessa could have gone off and just murdered people, and the Jedi would have no clue. Jedi are very free, but they just have a lot of hope, right? That because there's been no conflict with the Sith, that the Jedi are the best, and they'll always be and do what's right for them. But this case here, in terms of Ray in court and this external review, the Jedi are not honest. When this gets revealed, and I think it will, it's going to lead to more Senate oversight and more of the High Council trying to assuage relations by getting closer with the Senate. Maybe if it gets revealed, the High Council, once they realize what happened, are like, we can't let that happen again. In order to, smooth the relations, let's be more cool with the Senate. And that can eventually envelop what we see in the prequels. So it's just what is it called? A feather on the camel's back, per se, that we'll eventually see. I don't know. I
think you're thinking of straw that broke the camel's back.
There we go. Thank you. I'm terrible with analogy. Yeah, we're not there yet, but it's a slow conveyor belt per se of things that is eventually going to happen. But I loved this. I would have loved a bit more, getting some Andor-esque dialogue, some more about the senator political stuff. But I'm not upset either way. Rancourt, very ambitious, and Vanessa is struggling with that. Mog comes in, which is not her apprentice, by the way. StarWars.com says Mog is more so like Jedi Knight, who is just very much a clerk, an intern, basically, yeah. Which is very funny. And for when Mog says, I couldn't understand the transmission, but it sounded like his whole team died. And Vanessa is not holy shit, what are we gonna do, Mog? She's more so just her eyes dart to the left, and she's like, interesting, okay, she's
I sent him there.
Yeah, I sent him there. That's not good. People have been very sus on Vern, and Vern is being very sus, but I'm not ready to full on go on the Vanessa's evil train. I can't do it, Nathan. I can't think that Vanessa is a secret Sith or whatever. I've read so many books. I just finished reading Defy the Storm 2 weeks ago about Vanessa being a good character. She can lose faith in the Jedi Order. I can see that. But being evil, a secret Sith, I don't see it.
You're about to get you're about to get a novel drop in the next week where like she's gonna flip the novel.
Yeah, if there's like a second wave of books, and it's just like, oh yeah, Vernestra's final. But that'd be such a dark ending for Vernestra's road in the books. Like you're reading more books, and it turns out, well, you're reading the Acolyte 100 years later that Vernestra turns evil. Ha! It's like it just didn't seem like it. So we'll wait and see. But all the Vernestra sus stuff, though, I think will be a season 2 issue. Again, I don't know if Vernestra's problems. Vernestra's going to have to deal with something in the finale. But I don't know if it's going to be if it's going to solve all our mysteries.
I honestly think it's just like a response to whatever the set rules and codes are of the Jedi. Like they're just like this whole situation just kind of like hitting into like roadblock after roadblock of like, like looking in a manual, like what do I do next to this? I don't know.
Exactly.
Unprecedented.
This is unprecedented, uncharted territory for Vernestra and the Jedi here. But yeah, Kamir moves along. It says he admits that she was like, you're seeing all these things here. Were you once a Jedi? He says, yes, I was once a Jedi. Again, everything else he's saying has been true. I don't think he would just specifically lie here. There is a series of events that makes it plausible for Kamir to have been a Jedi a long time ago, been a Padawan to Vernestra, left her, then became a Sith apprentice. Those things can be the same. I think that's my likely theory right now. He both was apprenticed to Vernestra, but also was a Sith master or Sith apprentice, at least. Would it be the first time somebody left a Jedi to become a Sith, right? Count Dooku? Anybody? So I think that could be the case. Again,
he couldn't kill anybody though, right?
Yeah, no, yeah, he's so innocent.
So weird. That's so weird of Mace to say. He used to be a Jedi. He couldn't kill anybody.
Count Dooku, yeah, in Kikaida Munda. He's like, Count Dooku? Puh, he wouldn't do that. Like, come on.
Ethical idealist.
He says, Kamir admits he was a Jedi a long time ago. And Osha's like, I don't remember you. And he's like, well, a really long time ago. I'm like, what do you mean by that? Again, referencing the Collider interview, Leslie said, remember that line a really long time ago. I love the fact that he could be very old, Nathan. I love that fact. I love the fact that he could be like 100 years old.
There is a funny, like we kind of like gloss over, but you know, from the ending of episode 5, like he just on a whim force heals Osha.
Well, I mentioned that he might have not force healed her and bandaged her up, but it's possible he also did force heal her.
I mean, just from like the looks of things, he did like cover over. There was some recession.
Yeah.
Granted, maybe he did in like a small dose enough that you still need a bandage, but I don't know if like you can use that power to slow your age. I don't know if he's like absorbing animals and shit.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of anything in Star Wars that could create somebody to live that long a life and still look like Manny Jacinto. I'm like, usually if you use the dark side energy to survive for so long, you look like Palpatine. Or you look like there's a character in High Republic called Aslan Rel who lived for over 150 years, a human character, because he was so like tuned into the dark side. But he lost his eyes. His face was like sunken in. So I'm like, he lost a lot of his physical features. Kamir looks healthy as a baby. So what is happening here? We'll have to wait and see.
Maybe he has some interesting unknown knowledge that could very well be lost with him if he doesn't come out of things in the end of the journey, and that could be something that further Sith are trying to find, such as by the time later Palpatine.
Could be. I also think throughout his years, he's learned of knowledge that the Jedi are just not acquainted to. Leslie talked about this. Yeah.
In fairness, granted, you know, he was like, it was a healing tactic, but you know, Palpatine and Tross, he did steal energy from Rey and Ben to, you know, it did seem like he was like aging in reverse. Before
he got lucky. Yeah. He got lucky because they were a dyad. I think that was the only reason he was able to get that kind of life force from a dyad. Yeah. I don't think he'd be able to walk up to Rey and be like,
right. But at the same time, there could be like, because you know, Star Wars is always expanding its universe. We could have some sort of hidden thing we don't know that Chimera has access to.
Exactly. It could be a brand new force ability. I would love that. So yeah, when asked why he brought her here by Osha, he's like, "Why'd you bring me here?" He says he doesn't answer. She's like, "Well, probably for leverage," and he says, "Well, everybody does want you." And Osha says, "Well, Soul's Soul is very strong in the forest, and his power will allow him to find me." And that stops Chimera. He's like, Did you ever stop to think that it's your power that makes him able to find you? That is your power in the forest, not Soul's?" And that kind of stops her. And I was like, and he's like, somebody ought to teach you that. Like, that's your strength, Osha, not his. Again, helping her come into force with her strength, her inner truth, her inner abilities that she's kind of locked away because she's leaving. She left the Jedi Order, but still has these rigid rules inside of her. So then he gives her an opportunity to leave, like you mentioned earlier, and then eventually her inner curiosity clicks in, and she continues following him. Like, you can see it inside of her clicking, like, the inner strength inside of me. What does he know about that? How does he know so much about me? So then we cut to the funny Basil and May fight. Basil's boom, and then he steps on May's foot, and May gives like the best scream ever. It was hilarious. So then she also restarts Pip, which I thought was very funny. It also could be symbolic, like Pip goes from white to red. Color theory again, symbolizing Osha, who threw Pip at Chimera. Pip was a source of a light. Could be Osha's light slowly fading away the more she spent time with Chimera. Similar to how Pip, again, white to red, Osha's going from white to gray. It's just that there's a transitioning happening, not only with Pip, but with Osha. So maybe that's something there. But yeah, anyways, Osha, we come back and she's very curious. Like, what do you know about strength? What do you know about my strength in the Force? It can't be me because the Jedi taught me that the Force fades without practice. And so this is when Chimera starts, fumbling with the food, the pots. And he said, that's a restrictive Jedi rule. A restrictive Jedi rule that kind of, that there's only one way to learn the Force. He says there is another way. Powerful emotions lying just under the surface of consciousness. And this consciousness being, or that being, those emotions being anger, fear, desire, as he looks at Osha. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And Osha says, path to the dark side. Semantics, says Chimera. I thought that was very funny. Oh, I'm back. I thought that was very funny. Where he's like, that's semantics. He's not wrong. It's like, these are things you should be feeling. Granted, the Jedi are kind of like, anger, fear, loneliness. That is a path to the dark side. It's a cautionary tale for the Jedi. And it's a very complicated subject because what he's telling Osha is correct for Osha. Not necessarily that the Jedi are wrong for saying you can't accept anger, fear, and loneliness. I kind of think they are. I kind of think the Jedi should evolve to accept those feelings, not really discard them or neglect them. Feel those feelings, like especially Yoda tells Anakin as late as 100 years later in the prequels that like these feelings that you've had from your dreams, Revenge of the Sith, that anger, it's a path to the dark side, Anakin.
Yeah. Don't mourn them, don't miss them.
He's like Anakin's like Yoda, Master Yoda. I'm having these dreams. Like, of course, Anakin doesn't get specific, but Yoda doesn't say the right things to Anakin. There, he says like, don't experience these emotions. The path to the dark side. Anakin's like, yeah, you taught me that, but I'm still feeling things. Yeah, and that causes
you should rejoice because they're part of the Force, and we love them.
Exactly right, but it causes Anakin to tip-tap-toe over to Palpatine, and just like Chimera, Palpatine's able to basically say, like, yeah, Anakin, you're allowed to feel those things, and also I can help you with those feelings of loss.
Granted, I love when he does that from the jump too in the movies. Like Obi-Wan's knocked out, and it's like, you cut off your arm, you wanted revenge. It would be the first time.
It would be the first time. Yeah, I was like, oh, we're already here. Granted, that was Palpatine trying to corrupt and manipulate Anakin. Granted, Anakin needed to hear those things from Palpatine, but Palpatine was saying it in a way that was obviously bad. In this case, though, given Kymir's tone, he's saying it in a way that, as the episode says, is teaching her. You can feel those things. Why do you still feel so connected to the Jedi when you're not a Jedi? He's not saying this stuff to like Anakin or Ahsoka, people who are Jedi. He's saying this to Osha, who's left the Jedi Order.
I can also I could see a similar thing happening with Osha. In terms of Anakin, in that very scene we were talking about, Palpatine's like, yeah, you were in the right here, but also like leave Obi-Wan, there's no time, and like Anakin would never do that. I could see being in a position where Osha's like,
don't do it,
pinned, and it's Kymir's like, you have to stop Soul, or he's gonna stop you from being who you are meant to be, like what you want in this life. But obviously, Osha can't kill Soul.
No.
It's a crossroads. It's a crossroads of destiny.
It's a crossroads of destiny. We're getting that in episode 8. It's beautiful. But yeah, Soul and Osha are going to come to a crossroads. Their relationship will be tested in the finale, and it's going to be heartbreaking. I can't wait. I can't wait to have my heart shattered in front of me. And then this whole scene is like freaking one of the best scenes in all of Star Wars, in my opinion, because he gets up and he says, okay, you would have had, or she mentions after the whole Path of Dark Side, his semantics, she's like, well, you killed Jackie, or you killed Yord first. And he's like, the person that tried to arrest you on, when you didn't do anything wrong. And Jackie, he says, you would have had the same relationship with Jackie as you do with Soul, one-sided. Why do you love people who can only go so far? Like, this is peak dialogue here, and this is incredible because on so many levels, like Kymir wants that relationship with Osha. That like, why do you love somebody who can only go so far? I can go further than them. What do you mean by that? But also, it's like he's not wrong. Like we just talked about, the Jedi's proclivity for emotion. They can feel these things. They can feel romantic intentions or whatever. But there's a limit. They can't go all the way. Their love can't go all the way. There is a barrier to their love. And we learn from Osha, especially it's reinforced in this episode, Osha feels a lot of love towards people. And because Kymir and Soul, or because Soul and Jackie can't reciprocate that love fully, why do you still value them so much? It's very interesting. Granted, as a human, Osha should value them. You shouldn't fully listen to Kymir here. But at the same time, he's not wrong about the limits of love for the Jedi.
His charisma is maxed out. It's insane.
It's level 100 charisma on an RPG scale. It's like, this guy is insane.
I'd be fumbling the conversation 15 times over. Osha would say something and be like, but he's just like, but it's one-sided, and don't you deserve the love that you crave? Like,
he hasn't answered everything, and his answers are his honest truth, and usually he's not wrong.
Because he's so old.
He's so old, exactly. He has a lot of old wisdom. He says, why do you love people who can't go as deep as you can? And Osha says, I'm not like May. I can't be corrupted. And she walks out. But she didn't. Yeah, you're right. She didn't really answer him there. Like, why do you go so far for people you can't love? I think that might just be a big trait for Osha, though. At least at this point, sure. She loves people. She has a lovable nature to her, and we'll get to it in a later Soul scene here. But Osha, it continues as she walks out to the edge of the threshold of the room here, and Kymir tells her, "You stayed to do something. What do you need to do? Turn it on." She turns around. She's still holding the lightsaber. And she says, a Jedi doesn't attack the unarmed. Why do you think you're still a Jedi? He says, why do you think of yourself as a Jedi? They left you. She's like, no, I left. And just like, oh my God. And then you see the anger, the pain rising. He said, this anger, this pain, this is who you are. The Jedi saw it and they abandoned you. That's why they threw you away. And it's crazy. I think it's, I paused to hear. I was like, it's right and wrong where the Jedi might have saw that much pain and anger that came across Osha. She's not able to get across what happened on Brendok when she was young. That might be why Indara was like, maybe she shouldn't be right. Maybe she's not right. Because again, George says Indara went to the council and said Osha isn't right or isn't ready. But also maybe she did leave. So maybe the Jedi just didn't throw her away as much as Kyrie like to say that. But for all intents and purposes, she left. She wasn't ready. Maybe the Jedi kind of would have thrown it away. And then she said that they didn't throw me away because I failed. And that's what she, nice lightsaber, puts him against a rock. It's just incredible acting from Amandla, incredible acting from Manny in this scene. And it's great. And Khmer is so cool and calm and so intimate in this moment where he says, I understand. His arm connects with Osha. She's like, I understand. I lost everything, Osha. But when you lose everything, that's when you finally free. And I'm like, oh my God. It's so layered because then it begs the question, how free is Khmer? Is he just projecting his freedom? Is there a Sith Master still looking for him? I think he still is in the process of craving that freedom, of accepting his darkness, because he does have that romance with Osha. Maybe that might affect things moving forward. But yeah, it was. I love this scene so much. Just like Osha is grappling with these truths of she wasn't ready for the Jedi because she had this love, she had this emotion that the Jedi couldn't really stand, especially for somebody that was so old or so much older in Osha at that time. She was above the age limit. It's just Osha again. This is a big scene, a major scene of Osha accepting her truths, accepting what really went down, these harsh realities that she kind of finally has to accept. It was just a beautiful scene. And of course, Khmer is there to soothe the wound, to mend the wound that has been breaking her heart for so long.
I can fix that.
I can fix her, exactly. I can help her. We cut back to Vern, who says, hyperspace makes me nauseous when they're on their way to Kofar. That is a reference to the High Republic, where she is nauseous in hyperspace. She gets visions in hyperspace. So that's very cool. And then Mog is the first to say, like, maybe the Jedi didn't die because of, or maybe the Jedi died because of the harsh atmosphere on Kofar. I just love that the show, Leslie, they're reinforcing how people aren't just going to automatically assume a Sith killed all these Jedi. Mog immediately thinks it's the atmosphere. And when they get down to the planet, he assumes it was the Umbra Moths that attacked them, not a Jedi, until they go full CSI on it. Let's see here. May and Soul conversation. Soul is laying down on one of the benches. And he's upset he didn't sense any of the villain's intentions on Olega. How could he have missed this? He's like an audience asking that question. May says when you really want something, it can cloud your mind. And that's also, I'm starting to be like, this might be a big scene. For me personally, this is where Soul really caught on to May. The way she worked this conversation with Soul. Being like, well, when you're looking for something, it usually clouds your mind. And it's just kind of like she's really stumbling because her anger for Soul is bubbling out in this conversation.
Did you ever tell me what happened?
Yeah, like, did you ever tell me what happened? And Soul looks up and he's like, no, but I will. And then the power shuts on and off, and it's like it interrupts her conversation. But I think the way he heard her ask that question, I'm like, it doesn't seem like a thing Osha would say. But something I found interesting,
especially given that, like, the prior episode, he was like, Osha, I'll explain to you on the ship. And now here we're on the ship. Did you tell me?
You just told me. It's like, obviously, I already told you. Yeah, I already told you I'm going to tell you.
Like, now you're asking, like, will you tell me what happened? But May doesn't know. And now here we are.
But I do like how Soul says he sees Osha with the new Pip. And he says, I love the way you talk with Pip. You talk to him. You love him. Even though he's just a machine. And I feel like that was very much an Osha quality. Going back to the love conversation that Chimera had with Osha minutes prior, that's who Osha is, whether it's a machine with Pip or it's with Jackie and Yord. These are characters that Osha loved, but again, it goes to Chimera's words here. Osha is so easy to love a person. She's such a loving individual, but that sometimes might run counter to the Jedi ideology. There's only so much love a Jedi can give to another human being.
That's like an interesting reflection even of that. Like, so, like, you know, like you love it even though it's just a machine. But then, you know, self-reflection, like with the Jedi's code, is like, we're supposed to be such compassionate people, but like, I mean, it only goes so far. Is our compassion artificial? What are we doing?
What are we doing? That's a great point. And I think the High Republic books really touch on that, where other characters are like, you know, I know you can't have this relationship X and Y Jedi, but like, I love you anyways, buddy. Like when Jedis have relationships with people who aren't Force sensitive, it's just like, even the non-Force sensitives make fun of like the Jedi code and how the Jedi are so restricted by their affections and their loves. It's really
Which is funny because like they have friends, but like you can't really have friendship without like a semblance of love in there.
Exactly. It's like, are we just supposed to just not have that romantic tinge in our life at all? Like
that's just coworkers. That's not.
Yeah, right. And I think the more and more this happens, it's just me reinforcing that the arc for Osha isn't reconnecting with the Force and becoming a Jedi. It's reconnecting the Force and becoming something else, something that fits more her nature. And then we cut back to May and Soul are talking. He said, I had to lose a lot of myself to become a Jedi. And that's when Soul was like, I'm sorry. How could I feel? And May is like, how could I feel any other way? And again, it's just like, this is definitely May is trying her best to be Osha in this instance, but it's coming across very much like targeted. And then that's when May leaves. She goes to transition and says like, this is May and or this is Osha and I'm sending a transition. And then she gets shot because again, that scene was just very much so on the nose. But I like Nathan's theory honestly better over the course of this conversation that like even before that, after the hug, that Soul was already scratching his beard, being like, "What's going on here?" So May is in.
It does just get like so much more interesting. It's just like we're just like, oh May, like
yeah, he's like, oh May, like he's disappointed, but he's also like, this is an opportunity. I can finally talk to her.
And then in the same breath, he shuts off the comms, and you're like, oh.
Yeah, he shuts off the comms, and they fly away right as Vernestra gets to Kofar.
Better timing than that one guy that crashed to Vader's ship.
I know, right? Yikes.
That guy lives in infamy for us.
You're talking about Rogue One, right?
Yeah, where it's like,
boom. I love that scene. But yeah, it's like, why doesn't he stay? In the beginning of the episode, he's willing to turn himself in. Now he's not. And I think that, again, because once he catches May, he's like, I need to have this personal time with May. I think, of course, he's thinking, after we save Osha and after I tell May, then I can come to the Order. But Soul needs he's finally putting his personal feelings to the forefront. He's finally putting that to the forefront and feels like it's time to unload on May. And he needs that time. He can't be interrupted by Mog and Vernestra. But real quick, Mog gets down to they get down to the Obermoth colony, or they get down to Kofar. He says the Obermoth colony had they were unleashed last night. Some of the inhabitants think if that did happen and the Jedi were close by, that could have caused their death. Vernestra's like, I don't know about that. They go down there to check to see what's going on. We then cut back to nighttime with Chimera saying he's fixing up his helmet. And Osha's like, did you give the same speech, this whole same pitch to May? He's like, no, I made a mistake with May. And again, very honest. I made a mistake with May, and I thought she wanted more than revenge. And Osha's like, what do you think she wanted? Or what do you want? He turned around and says, the power of two. I don't know what this means, Bob. Power of two as in, does he want a dyad with Osha. I still tend to think the dyad is still Osha and May, but does he want that with Osha? Leslie says, and I think it's kind of said in this episode, he wants a master and pupil relationship. Pupil can eventually become equal to the master. He wants Osha to be her best version of herself. They can become equals, but that what you really want from the power of two, I think the power of two is different from the rule of two, where it's just like the master and apprentice relationship. There's a difference. Like there's one overarching figure, and I don't think Chimera wants to be that overarching figure to Osha. But power of two is something I really want to dig into. I'm really curious to see what Chimera eventually thinks about that saying. But it is, again, very much just like the Coven. Power of one, the power of two, the power of many. Could he have learned from the Coven? Could he have done his research on things like the Witches' Pact and their saying and their philosophy and kind of embedded that into his own philosophy of freedom, just like the Coven wanted that freedom? You never know. You never know. I still tend to think now that Chimera wasn't involved in what happened in Brendock. When we get episode 7 tomorrow, I don't think that Chimera. I don't think that Chimera was there. I don't think he caused anything. I think it's very much a Jedi witch thing. I could be very wrong, and tomorrow I'm like I'll be eating crow, but I just don't think he was there. Especially now that we know. What? Sorry.
I think it probably just ends up being an opportunity of Chimera finding someone broken and who has their own story of how they became broken.
Exactly, and he learned from May about what happened, and that's why he is the way he is. And maybe he did his research afterwards, and May helped him clue him in on the witches and their philosophy. But also, he is long-lived. So my idea was like, it can't be Chimera who went to Kofar a long time ago, or Brendock a long time ago, because he's only like in his 30s. 16 years ago, he'd have been like a teenager on Brendock with all these plans. Like, I don't get it. But now that we know he's long-lived, he could have definitely been on Kofar, or again, Brendock, and done some messed up stuff. So I don't want to rule it out, but I kind of am. But I also just don't want to eat crow tomorrow, so... I don't know. There's a lot of stuff. Like, remember, guys, going into next week, there was that weird sound when they're training May and Osha. There's something wrong with the generator. Somebody's watching them. It may not just be the Jedi. So we'll have to wait and see. And so, he said he wants the power of two. He removes his shirt, and there's a scar. And he says, and Osha asks about the scar. Like, how did you get that? Someone stab you in the back? Someone who threw you away? You're a Jedi master? And he doesn't say anything. No. She said she guesses Jedi master, and she says somebody who threw you away, or he says somebody who threw me away. And the point that she, I think, is connecting is that like his Jedi master threw him away, but he doesn't respond. So I still think the scar is originating from Force lightning, originating from his Sith master, who will be revealed in the season 1 finale. So I think that's more likely than Vernestra using her light whip on Chimera.
Right.
I don't think that's Vernestra. I don't think so. A lot has changed in 100 years. I know. But like, I don't think Vanessa is the one to do that.
It just seems kind of strange because it looks like if that was like inflicted by a whip, there's a lot of strike points to make that shape. And that's exactly like overkill for Vernestra. But if it's a shock of lightning where it's uncontrolled energy, like
he wants that freedom. He left. He didn't like his master. And again, power of two. I immediately thought rule of two, but Chimera doesn't like rules, so he left the rule of two to find Osha and May, and that begins his next journey. But then he's still on the run. He's still seeking that freedom away from his Sith master. So that might be like, heading into season 2, Osha and Chimera on the run from the Sith master. There's a game of like cat and mouse. If you watched, what's that Ryan Johnson show called? With
Poker Face.
Poker Face, like she's on the run that whole episode, the whole series, and we could be getting that with Osha and Chimera. But a little bit left to go here. He's messing with the Cortosis helmet. And he explains the Cortosis from last week. We're saying, hey, this is Cortosis. This is really good against lightsabers, blah, 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 blah. We already talked about it last week. But he does say it is like a Jedi deprivation helmet. And this clues us in that he kind of wasn't lying about being a Jedi Padawan. Because he seems to know a lot about the Jedi arts and about Jedi deprivation helmets, which are Jedi knowledge. Not regular people don't know about Jedi deprivation helmets. So either way, he says blocks out everything. It's just you and the Force. And
I think he even compared it to like the ones like that younglings use in their training.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like those deprivation helmets, like the ones the younglings use.
Ones we used to use.
In the Attack of the Clones, or the ones that Luke used in A New Hope, those kind of things. Yeah. Sabine used in Ahsoka last year. Those kinds of helmets where you can't see anything, but you're supposed to be in tune with the Force and whatever you take with you. Also, very much like Yoda in Endor, or Dagobah. But she said, "I don't trust you." He says you shouldn't, but you should learn to trust yourself. And this is again the motto of the episode: learn to trust yourself, your emotions, your fear, your anger, your loneliness. You need to confront that. This helmet is the tool that she's going to use to confront those emotions. We then cut to the Jackie jump cut, which was uncalled for. Didn't love it.
You saw me?
Yeah, you're like, oh!
Oh, what are you doing to me? Come on.
What are you showing me? So that was uncalled for. We get some hilarious Vin Diesel, Fast and Furious, Vernestra CSI moments. They're like, what happened here? It's like, oh, the tire frame rolled down the hill. I'm kidding.
I still laugh that scene was caused by mother's milk from the boys.
Oh my God. Yes.
So the most random things. Like, what do you mean he's the asshole in Avatar? What?
He's the main bad guy in Fast and Furious. That's wild. That's why I keep forgetting that, man. I
want to see him in more.
Not a memorable antagonist, but yeah, he is a really good actor. I really want. He's doing so good in The Boys this season too. Are you all caught up with The Boys, by the way? Are you close?
I am. I even just because I hadn't seen it yet. I just binged The Boys Diabolical because I hadn't seen it.
Nice. The animated show, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't watched that yet. Is it good?
Yeah, there's some good stuff. There's some other points where I'm like, you went a little just to do it. But it's pretty good. There's some like really like touching stories here and there. I think like the most touching one, shockingly, was written by Andy Samberg.
Oh wow,
it's really good.
I feel like he's
not capable. We saw Palm Springs.
Of course, yeah. And Palm Springs is peak rom-com. When we do like bring Maccabee back, I want to go over Superman and this whole season of The Boys in general.
Yeah,
because it's been very fun.
We need to do like some teas where like we do like one could be news, but the other one we just need to do some reviews.
Yeah, there's been some great stuff. We haven't even talked about like A Quiet Place. I heard you hated that movie though, but yeah,
they wouldn't let me finish, Bob. Nature wouldn't let me finish.
You went back and finished it, right?
I did. I went back, found out I only had 5 minutes to go, which is holy shit.
Yeah. Crazy. People who don't know, Nathan was watching it. The building fell down on top of him. No. Yeah.
I think I would cry because I lost my favorite theater.
But yeah, your movie kind of like shut out on you. The lights turned off, powered outage. Not great.
Yeah. The whole block, really.
Damn.
Tornado warning that earlier. There was no Glenn Powell to help.
No Glenn Powell. You couldn't feel it. You couldn't chase it.
I saw the trailer.
Can't wait. That's next week, guys. But anyways, back to CSI High Republic. Mog says, seems like a powerful Jedi has fallen. Maybe Soul. This is after, of course, looking at the lightsabers, and it's like, it wasn't caused by Umbermoth. These are lightsaber wounds. And she says, that's a very high accusation when he accused Soul. But who else could it be? Are we leading towards, or then he says who else? And she says something to tip the scales. which is something she quoted early on in the season. It is very sus for Nestra.
What? So, okay, so in that moment when she says something to tip the scales, that immediately my brain's like, okay, so she's thinking something unknown. And then Mog over here is like, but why would he do this? I'm like, that's not what we're saying.
Yeah.
Don't put the blame on my boy.
And this is the last time we see Vanessa this episode. I think we could be looking at a chapter or a closing chapter here for Soul where maybe he doesn't die, but he is emblematic of killing the Jedi without a lightsaber, where he's banished from the Order, or I like to think he leaves the Order himself. It's his decision. Because that's something very High Republic coded. Somebody just leaving the Order. Because there's a lot of cases, a lot of our favorite Jedi in High Republic are just like, oh yeah, one time I left the Jedi Order for a year. One of my favorite Jedi named, wow, I'm forgetting the name. He is Lula's master from Jedi Adventures. But anyways, he left the Jedi Order to hang out with his boy. He thought he loved him. And he did. They had a romance. But then again, similar to what Chimera says, like the love can only go so far. And he felt like it just wasn't his true calling. His true calling was to be with the Jedi. So he left his boyfriend, basically, and went back to the Jedi. He went back to Yoda. And Yoda accepted him. He's like, welcome back. I knew you'd come back, basically. And it's a very sweet moment. And he became one of the best Jedi Masters. He's the GOAT. And it's just like, I think I can see Soul doing that. Of course, this one's going to be much more tragic because I think he's not even thinking right now of leaving the Jedi Order. But once he tells May, once he confronts Osha with that knowledge, I don't know how Osha will take it now that Osha's willing to not be so stoic and hold in her true feelings. Now that Chimera is telling her, like, you are allowed to feel anger, feel sadness, etc., this could allow Osha to just have much more of a harsh reaction to Soul's whatever he did on Brendok in a way that he's not prepared for, and it causes him to be like, you know what, Osha, here's your lightsaber, and I'm leaving the Order. And that could be his arc for season 2 about coming back, or, you know, getting the funk back out of it, getting back to the Jedi Order or something. But that's if he doesn't die. I still think it's very likely he also just does die by somebody in the finale. Does Chimera kill him? I don't know. Does Chimera's master kill Soul? Very, very, very possible. So you never really know. I just think if he doesn't die, Soul is either leaving the Order or gets banished by said Order. Is Vernestra willing to blame everything on Soul to hide the truth? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know what Vernestra's capable of right now. We'll have to wait and see. But the episode does end, though, with May cuffed by Soul. Soul says, I'll uncuff you, May, but you're going to sit here and you're going to listen. Basically, he says, like, we're going to find Osha. We're going to save her. But first, we need to talk. What becomes of this convo? Will May turn? Is in my notes. I don't think May will turn fully like, oh, I love you, Soul. But I think she'll have it. We talked about it last week, right? Where it's like, even if she doesn't go full Jedi, I think she'll just come to an understanding of like, okay, I understand your position.
And I can also see it like moving to like a mutual, like, listen, we're on different paths, but we need to save Osha.
Yeah. But the tragedy is, Nathan, does Osha need saving?
Oh,
May and Soul, I think May, after coming to this conclusion, after the flashback, she's going to be like, I don't know, she's going to be like, let's go, Soul, but like, they're going to be on their way to, either way, whatever May's reaction is going to be, episode 7 is going to end with them on their way either to the unknown planet, and that's where they'll confront everything, or somewhere. Chimera, Osha, Soul, May are going to have a confrontation on either the unknown planet somewhere. They're going to have a confrontation. Both of them think they need to save Osha. Osha does not need to be saved. That's going to create some emotional heartbreak wreckage, carnage. I can't wait. And we know the way. Yeah, sorry.
Can you imagine if it like turned? It won't, but like if it turned into like a 4-way idealistic brawl of just like, oh, Osha's like trying to protect Chimera from this position from Soul, but then also Chimera's going after May, and she can't have that. It's like shit.
Yeah.
It's like, oh fuck.
I could see Chimera. I saw Chimera kill 6 people, guys. Almost kill May, almost kill Soul, but for some reason, my dumbass brain is not contemplating Chimera killing Soul in the finale. Is that dumb of me? I don't know.
I think that's reasonable. Like the Jedi killer killing a Jedi.
But I don't think he's going to do it in the finale. That's my bias to his relationship with Osha now being so cemented, his enemies to lovers relationship coming into form here. I just don't see him then killing Soul.
I'll tell you what would be like an ultimate tragedy is like I said earlier, like if it was like given into like Osha's hands to like take down Soul, like she can't do it. But also, what if it's like a position where she just walks away and leaves Chimera with Soul? That would be heartbreaking in its own right as well. Like I can't strike him down, but I am on this path, and Chimera's gonna seal that path with Osha for her.
I don't know, and then they just run off together. I think if anybody kills him, I think May still is likely to kill Soul. Maybe.
Yeah. I thought it would be like the ultimate twist if like Soul opens up the story to both of them, and May ends up being like, "Oh, I see," but then Osha being scorned by the truth.
Yeah,
that would be insane.
I also have a big headcanon. Big headcanon. Chimera Osha versus Chimera Sith Master. Chimera Osha Soul. Yeah, Chimera Osha and Soul versus Chimera Sith Master, who's been like, you sought your freedom, you left me, and just like Chimera killed everybody on Kofar to tie up loose ends, Chimera is his Sith Master's loose end, and you have to die, Chimera. Like, I'll find another apprentice, but you have to die. You can't just you can't be a Sith and just not be with me Sith. You know what I mean? You can't be a Sith but not be a part of the rule of two. I think that's why he's going to come in there, try and kill Chimera. Chimera's barely going to live. Osha might be able to force heal Chimera as they barely make it out alive, but at the cost of Soul dying to the unknown antagonist.
I could very much see. I could see definitely like Soul
hey,
holding off, yeah.
Oh,
and even if that does mean Osha has to go with Chimera, he knows she's in a safe position.
Bingo! Woo!
That's not gonna happen.
But if that does happen, clock it. 1 hour, 57 seconds, 40 seconds. Like, we caught it. But I think it's very likely that Osha and Chimera barely make it out alive. Soul fesses up, especially to May too, like protecting May. I don't know what May. I'm having a very hard time seeing May's final journey this season, final through line this season. Not that it's like badly written. It's just that I can't predict it. I'm so locked in that I can't predict where May goes. Like, does she survive this ordeal in the finale? I'm not fully saying she does. I think she's still high on the hit list. Her and Soul, obviously. But I could also see her pulling an Osha, where she also just goes off to live her own life away from Chimera, away from the Jedi, and or maybe she just comes with Soul and Chimera, or Osha and Chimera. You never know. Power of three.
I think no matter what, I think she's going to continue to fight for Osha. Because she's of the perspective that Jedi brainwashed her, and now she may be of the mindset that Chimera's done the same.
Yeah. I'm with you, man. I'm with you. She loves her sister. That's the biggest consistency of this entire season.
It's also a big consistency that like every time Osha's been like, I don't want your help here. May's just like, I'll help you through this.
And Osha and Chimera, or Osha still has to have a more a big reconciliation with May. That's something that's like the big closure moment that is 100% going to happen in the finale. But the big mystery going on to season 2 is going to be the mystery of Chimera's master, Chimera's lineage, Chimera's past. That's more of a season 2 stuff. But Osha and May, Osha, May, Soul, that triarchal relationship, those three, their emotional journeys with each other will be completed. Osha's journey is just beginning. It's kind of like Rey, where it's like Rey had a complete arc in The Force Awakens, connecting with the Force, finally, through the help of Ben, connecting with the Force and defeating him. Similar thing with here, where she's going to come into the Force. She's not going to defeat anybody. I don't think so, at least. But she's going to come to terms with herself, what her past, her sister. She's going to save Chimera, and then her journey with her new destination, her unknown journey, begins in season 2. Whatever that is going to be best for her. I want to make sure I didn't miss anything because that was 2 hours of a lot. But yeah, I love this episode, guys. It's really just, it says a lot. There's so many stuff, not only with the Osha, Chimera, enemies to lovers, teaching relationship, but also with Soul and what he's going through and his emotional turmoil. A side of him we haven't yet seen. And then, I wrote down how Chimera shares his own loneliness, his own rage with Osha, and they both reciprocal. They have that reciprocal relationship. But okay, that'll be it for us. Tomorrow is, 30 minutes until midnight, so it's still tomorrow. Tomorrow's the Acolyte, episode 7, the penultimate episode. What happened on Brendock? We'll be back this weekend for our review on the Acolyte, as well as the next commentary, which is X-Men Dark Phoenix.
No, it's Deadpool 2.
Deadpool 2, 2018. We're in the 2018 era. Yeah. Deadpool 2, New Mutants, Dark Phoenix. Those are the last 3.
Yep.
And they'll be all caught up before Deadpool and Wolverine. So you guys can find me on Twitter at HarrisEV9. Talking all things Acolyte, Oshamir. Talking all things, anime. This summer anime is just giving. I'm about to watch My Adventure with Superman if Jalen is still willing. He's been playing Final Fantasy 14 a lot. But anyways, we'll see what happens with that. And with that, find me again, Harris EV9 for I did House of the Dragon podcast. I'm loving that show, halfway through that show. I just did one this morning. So if you like House of the Dragon, you're still shaking over what happened last night, I have thoughts. Me and Edgar shared our thoughts on where heartbreak feels good on YouTube, wherever you find podcasts. So check that out. Nathan, what about you?
You can find me _TimeBlazer, making a show called Time Blazer with co-star and creative consultant Evan Harris.
Otherwise known as Chimera. Enemies to lovers in Time Blazer? Nathan is?
There's only something electrical in the history.
Oh, okay. I love that.
That's your power. With that being said, if you guys enjoyed this, make sure you like button, subscribe not already, ring the bell, seeing this future coverage on all things Star Wars. And that being said, hope you have a great day, and may the Force be with you always.